Welcome to Sold Out, the podcast where we travel through time and try to see the biggest movies on the big screen, only to find out that they're sold out. But we're already at the theaters, so just like in the 90s, we see something else instead. I'm Ian, movie lover and media critic. I'm here with my co-host, Michael Smith.
Hi, I am Michael. I am a former film student, film critic with over 15 years of experience. I used to write for outlets like MoviePass and the Fansided Network, but now I'm the co-host of your favorite new podcast.
It is my favorite new podcast.
Yeah, mine too. Weird how that worked out.
Well, this week we traveled to May of 1989. This is our second week that we're spending in May of 89. We came here to see Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, but it is still sold out this week. Mm-hmm. And so we decided to see Roadhouse. But what else was showing this weekend?
Yeah, so we had other options. There was No Holds Barred. Was that the Hulk Hogan one?
That was the Hulk Hogan one. Hulkmania, baby.
Yeah, you really tried to give me the hard sell on Hulkamania.
I remember liking Hulk Hogan movies as a child, have not watched them as an adult. I have a sneaking suspicion that they don't hold up.
Maybe not.
But who knows? I've been surprised before.
Yeah, see no evil, hear no evil. We've established how we feel about that one. As appealing as Charlie Sheen playing a character named Wild Thing with a weird mohawk may be.
Is that his name in that movie?
Yeah, we already did baseball last week, so I feel like Major League had to be out.
Yeah.
So that gives us Roadhouse.
So I'd never seen Roadhouse before recording this episode with you.
Nor had I.
What were your impressions of Roadhouse? I just want to know, like, let's try to backtrack because I know I had some judgment in my heart.
Yeah. So Roadhouse I was surprised when I learned that it was 1989. I was born in 89. I'd love to claim being an 80s baby, but culturally, I'm very much a 90s baby.
Yeah.
You know, I would have pegged this as an 84, not an 89 based on sort of my, So 30,000 foot impression.
Your judgment was more about the time.
Yeah, it seemed very much to be a product of its era.
I thought this was just a movie for somebody else that wasn't me.
Why don't you tell me who that somebody else was and how you feel about them very specifically?
That somebody else might enjoy handguns more than I do. That somebody else might spend a lot of their afternoon just watching whatever plays on TBS. And I think that part I was right about.
That part you are right about. I could definitely see this movie or most of this movie with some substantial cuts playing on TBS in the afternoon.
It would need a lot of cuts to play on TBS back then. Well, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but it is interesting how this movie did find a second life in that space. But yeah, I just thought this movie, I think that this movie sort of fell in the probably the Predator sort of territory for me. I was like, these movies are these big action, very dude movies. And they weren't the types of movies that I liked watching at the time. And
I think that's what I meant when I was like, this is very much like an 80s action movie was my impression.
Yeah. It's sort of the pre-Die Hard action era of the big hero that doesn't get hurt or what he takes a bullet and keeps on going versus the Die Hard, which is where I really jump into action and say, these are my type of action movies. Yeah. These very real people with Bruce Willis in that movie, one of the things I love is he has an achievable body. He gets hurt all the time. He makes mistakes. Yeah. And Roadhouse, Predator, Commando, these are movies about very muscular, invulnerable dudes doing dude stuff that is, I don't know if, I was going to say vaguely homoerotic, but I think I'm going to strike through vaguely. There's really no reason to put it there. Why temper very homoerotic movies? And we'll talk about that too. So I say, let's watch Roadhouse. Let's talk about Roadhouse. This feels like I need to get over my judgments. I've cast aspersions on these people who love Roadhouse. Maybe I'm one of those people.
You might be one of those people.
Well, let's find out. You grab the ticks?
I'll do that.
I'll grab the popcorn.
Perfect.
Name's Dalton, right? It's a mean scene around here, man.
You honest?
Yes, sir.
It was a good night. Nobody died.
It'll get worse before it gets better.
Ah!
Got a skinny little runt named Dalton.
Well, who's gonna save him from you?
I thought it would be fun to fight you, Dalton.
He did that one on purpose.
So clear. I wanted to put so many more explosions in that supercut, but it just became an entire series of explosions, and I couldn't tell any of them apart. And so, to spare everybody the time, I just kept it to the one. But we will definitely talk explosions after the break. We'll be right back with Sold Out.
So many explosions.
So many explosions. A promotional message from Uplift Media.
I'm Rosie Page. Welcome to Nailed It Novels, the book club where we bring stories to life, but with some seriously sparkling, glittery nail art. I'm in not one, not two, but 3 book clubs, and that's just not enough. So I'm starting my own, but with a twist. I'm gonna bring my love of reading and my passion for nail art together, and we're gonna draw inspo from the books to the nails. So whether you're a lifelong reader, a lapsed book lover, or just here for the nail inspo, this space is for you. Nailed It Novels isn't about being well-read. It's about the love of the read. And the nails? That's just my way of bringing the stories right to their fingertips. We launch July 24th, and a new episode will drop every other Thursday. So mark your calendars and get ready to talk books and nails with me. Come for the stories and stay for the sparkle. Our first read is Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to Nailed It Novels on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Happy reading, Nailed It Novelers.
Welcome back to Sold Out. We just watched Roadhouse. Michael, break it down. What's it about?
In Roadhouse, bouncers are celebrities, and the most famous in the nation is James Dalton, played by Patrick Swayze, who's hired to clean up the Double Deuce, a roadside bar with some problems. Insanely violent brawls, an unlimited supply of broken glass and gratuitous nudity, if you want to call that a problem, and a corrupt booze supplier, to name just a few. Can Dalton use his philosophy degree from NYU and his mastery of Tai Chi to solve this problem? Or is he going to let his romantic feelings for his nemesis, ex-girlfriend, and his frustration with continued automotive vandalism get in the way? Let's find out, Ian.
My first question is... Oh, you have more?
I need... The director's name...
Rowdy.
...is very fittingly Rowdy Harrington.
That is not his real name. That was his middle name, though.
I don't care. The fact that this movie is directed by a dude named Rowdy might be the funnest effects. I looked through his filmography.
A lot of James Spader.
And it seems like most of your preconceived notions about Roadhouse fit with the rest of the movies he made. And to be fair, they fit with Roadhouse too.
But we can both agree before we even get into this that we think Roadhouse works.
Yeah, I don't care
okay, cool,
if
cool,
it's
cool,
like
cool.
a bro movie or it's so fucking fun.
Yeah. Where did you get James Dalton? I thought he was a mononym. Where's James from?
The internet.
But is it in the movie? Is there any point at which we know that?
I don't know.
Because I saw on the internet that somebody said he has a PhD in philosophy.
But that is not that my original write-up of the synopsis says PhD.
I know it. I saw that and I was like, where did you get this? Because I saw it online too.
I went back and rewatched the scene where his philosophy degree is mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
It is not specified as a PhD.
It's not. Okay. I just want to make sure I did not miss, these very important plot points. I do love that he went to NYU though, because it's that perfect middle ground of he didn't go Ivy League, but he's very smart, and we want you to know that.
It's not Yale, but it's NYU.
It's NYU.
NYU has prestige.
So my question is this just a Western? Like everything about it, except the dusty little town just happens to have a 24-hour gym and a tanning salon. The sheriff is really into Tai Chi, and the villain owns a helicopter, a 3-wheeler, and a monster truck.
Dude, the monster truck is... dope.
Is the monster truck Wesley's?
I think
I never see him drive it.
I imagine, much like everything else in the town, he has claimed some sort of ownership over said monster truck.
So yes, we agree that this does follow kind of those basic tropes, though, of being a Western.
Patrick Swayze is the sheriff. He shows up in the town.
Mm-hmm.
it has all of these problems. It's being run by the outlaws, and he has to clean it up.
That is definitely the case. Let's talk about the outlaws, though, because this is the part of the movie that I was just trying to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
How does the way that Brad Wesley behaves benefit him in any way?
I don't know. I mean, financially, it definitely does.
Maybe. I mean, in your classic Western, your villain sort of has his gang of banditos that comes into town and basically runs a town, takes everybody's goods and services for free, goes into the bar, drinks for free, does the various things that the bandito does.
Yeah,
right?
I kind of love the way, though, that he sets it up where it's like the nonprofit for the improvement of the town. And so the Chamber of Commerce thing requires everyone
Jasper
to pay
Chamber of Commerce. Yeah, they learned about that from Red. But it's sort of this throwaway line. So we know that everybody's paying for protection, presumably.
Or presumably it's
I don't know.
They pay him so he doesn't fuck everything up, but then he continues to fuck everything up.
Well, that's what protection is, though, right? We're going to protect you from all of the dangers out there if you pay us. And what they're really saying is, if you don't pay us, we're going to mess things up.
Yeah.
I mean, Brad Wesley's really wealthy.
He's really, because he has the helicopter, a ton of cars, including what we have established, or I don't know if I've established a really bitchin' monster truck.
I think we can agree that if you have a monster truck, it's probably default bitchin'.
Yeah, I mean, you've done something right with your life if you have acquired the means to have a monster truck. And when we say monster truck, we are not talking a lifted truck.
No. This isn't an F-150 with some big rims on it.
No, this is a monster truck.
It's used to destroy other cars.
It is.
Yeah. But how is he profiting off of this town? That's what I'm trying to understand. So yes, protection money, but he's not making that much off protection money, but he's doing a lot of things to economically depress this town. So keeping the Double Deuce the way he does, which the Double Deuce, the two poops.
The two
poops.
It's
sometimes when I take my dog for a walk, he double deuces.
He does.
I have to bring multiple bags. It's important.
Because you are an upstanding citizen.
I'm responsible. I am.
Take care of the Double Deuce.
Yeah, I do take care of the Double Deuces. So I'm not unlike Dalton in that way, in that I really protect the town so that the Double Deuce can, I don't know where I'm going with this. It doesn't matter. How does wrecking the Double Deuce and keeping the Double Deuce where he does, how does it help Wesley?
I think he just gets off on being an asshole.
I mean, yeah, but that's not profitable.
It is emotionally, spiritually profitable.
Yeah, I guess I just, as always, I'm trying to understand the economics of this world.
I know. You're the guy who was very fixated on not closing the beaches in Jaws because of the economic implications. So
by that decision.
Of course, you're like, I don't get it. This doesn't seem efficient.
Yes, it doesn't seem efficient, but it is also because in your classic Western, there is sort of a clear setup of incentive for the bandits to do what they're doing because it's just very profitable for them to continue doing it. And I just couldn't figure out, Wesley just seems to have this Scrooge McDuckian lifestyle of money that he's diving into.
Treasure bathing all day. Yeah.
But he's also across the lake from an old rundown farm, which I do love that they're just across the water from.
That he uses his helicopter to terrorize said farm. Because he's just a dick.
Well, and this movie does a bunch of really funny things to set up your heroes and set up your villains.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the term save the cat?
No.
Okay, so this is this term that's used in screenwriting. You want your protagonist to save the cat so that if he does something mean later, I don't know, tear someone's throat out with his claw hand, that the audience is still on his side because they might be a little horrified by the thing that he did. And so you have your protagonist early on, go up a tree and save a cat for a nice old lady, so everybody likes him. Dalton has all these save the cat moments that are just so good and also are so inconsistent with his character that I really adore them. I think my favorite being Well, maybe, I don't know. It's so hard to pick a favorite.
Hard to pick favorites.
It's hard to pick favorites in this movie, but I think my favorite being when he is on his date with Dr. Elizabeth Clay for the first time, and they're at that cafe, and there is the drunk man that is tipping over in his chair, and he keeps propping him back up, and you're like, oh, Dalton's such a nice guy. Or should I say James Dalton? I'm not okay with him not having a mononym. I'm really like,
the James Dalton, that was really the only time I ever planned on using James.
Well, at any rate, Dalton keeps propping him up, and then eventually the cafe owner or manager or whoever is there goes to kick him out. He goes, well, you're gonna have to pay rent if you're gonna be here, and he throws a couple bucks, and he goes, well, that should pay for his rent. And we're like, oh, Dalton's such a sweet guy. Dalton's a bouncer for a living. Like, what he does is take drunk guys and throw them out of establishments because it's not profitable to have people drunk falling over.
He understands why it's unappealing for your business to have drunk guys.
His business is understanding why that's unappealing. I do love that is his like sort of his save the cat moment. He has so many others though. And then your Wesley sort of like villain moment is buzzing the farm with the helicopter.
Yeah.
There's no nuance. There's no gray.
No. And it's because it's just a cool set piece. And that's a lot of this movie is that, right? Is you have this plot, this setting that is there just to sort of serve up these really fun to watch set pieces. Mm-hmm. You have these bar fights that are completely over the top. You have so many just pieces of furniture that are broken in half by people's faces.
The first bar fight, when the really big burly bouncer that's working at the Double Deuce while Dalton's just, he's taking it in, he's observing, he's doing his calm Tai Chi thing. That big giant guy with the goatee, I did not look up the actor's name. 90% of it, he's just holding a man over his head. He's just walking around, carrying a full-grown man over his head.
Yeah, and like your entire impression going into this of like what this movie was and why this movie wasn't going to be for you is true. Yeah. Like it has all of those things. It very much is the movie with the hero that just has so much pain inflicted on him and doesn't flinch. It becomes a plot point.
Well, pain doesn't hurt.
Pain doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt. That's the title of this episode.
And yeah, so it's all true. It's all there. And I just don't care.
It sort of tells you not to care.
Yeah.
It sets up, by setting up a world you mentioned in which bouncers are not just famous, but maybe the most famous people. But he's so famous that the owner of the Double Deuce has traveled a distance far enough to justify buying a plane ticket.
Yeah.
To come and get him. And then when he brings him to the Double Deuce, Carrie Ann, who she gets so much play early in the movie and then just vanishes. She sees him and is like, that's Dalton. Yeah. She's a waitress in a shitty rundown bar.
No, and
like, she says that as though the way you would say, oh, that's Patrick Swayze. Which, by the way, did you know they actually had major production issues with this movie because of how famous Patrick Swayze was?
I imagine in the 80s, Patrick Swayze was quite famous.
It was really tough. So this was after Dirty Dancing. Mm-hmm. The scene on...
Speaking of picking people up and holding them above your head.
I've actually never seen Dirty Dancing either. I'm realizing my whole Patrick Swayze,
Have you seen Ghost?
Yes, but it's been a very long time. I don't remember it super well, but I have seen Ghost. I just have not seen enough Swayze. At any rate, when they were shooting the fight scene down on the water, when he does the famous throat rip.
Yeah.
They had to keep stopping because boats were going by with women who were like, Patrick Swayze.
Yeah.
Yeah, they couldn't get shots done. And a lot of the people on set were so taken with him that they would trip over their lines and make mistakes. It was a big deal having Patrick Swayze.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, they couldn't get anything done because he was so famous.
But I don't want to gloss over this. I love that all of this takes place in this world where bouncers are so famous. He has a national reputation. Everyone knows who he is.
By his single name. He is the Cher.
Yeah, and it's not for any reason besides that he's just a really good bouncer.
Well, they call him a cooler at one point, and I was trying to figure out what the difference between a bouncer and a cooler was.
Yes. So, again, according to the internet, the same internet that told me his first name was James.
And that he had a PhD.
So take this with
everything I read said he had a PhD. So
a pile of salt.
It must exist somewhere because I saw it several times.
Where was I going? Let's go to a cooler.
A cooler. Yes, you're going to tell me what a cooler is.
Is like the lead bouncer.
Okay.
He's like
the boss bouncer.
He's the boss bouncer of the other bouncers who keeps things cool. And that's another thing. You know, you want to talk about just like weird economic quibbles and how things don't make sense.
Quibbles. It's about getting a bar back on its feet. The whole movie starts off. The thrust is.
I had trouble with the math of like just the size of the bouncing crew that this bar has. Like,
it's a big team.
Like keeping that team employed and paid. And Dalton is given like a $5,000 signing bonus and $500 a night. How many nights a week is he working? I mean, that is
unclear.
Even in 2025, you know, post massive inflation numbers, like, you know, if this is a 5-night a week kind of gig, I mean, that's real money.
Yeah. I mean, that's why he drives that very nice Mercedes, wears all that very clean clothing, and has that superb haircut.
I mean, given the way he behaves, these are one-time use outfits.
He gets knifed a lot. Everybody is pulling a knife on this guy.
Including a cartoonishly large Bowie knife during that scene where he like fires a bunch of people.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That is when he lets like the whole team go.
For various reasons. It's like, you're a hooker. You're a drug dealer. I don't like you.
You don't have the temperament to be a bouncer.
What is the temperament that one needs to be a bouncer?
I don't know. I think you need to be much more philosophical. You need to spend more of your spare time reading Legends of the Fall, which
Why is it Legends of the Fall?
I don't know.
Because I
thought he was into philosophy, and I was trying to like put these pieces together. Why this is the book that he's reading?
I tried to put lots of pieces together, and they just don't come together.
They don't fit. And it asks you to buy in so early. And this is something that I think that movies should do more of. It doesn't explain itself. In fact, one of my favorite things that it doesn't explain itself about is why is a bouncer the one who's keeping order in Jasper, Missouri, and not the police?
Well, because they are part of the grift that Brad, great first name, speaking of first names, Brad Wesley has put together this town.
I know, but they don't mention that until like 90 minutes into the movie. Like there has been fucking chaos going on in this town for a solid 90 minutes into this 2-hour movie before there's this throwaway line about the police being in his pocket, which honestly, I wish they never said it. Because I was at a point where I was like, fuck it, I guess police don't exist here because bouncers are famous because they're the ones who keep order in town. I mean, Dalton is the stand-in for the sheriff of the Western. So I was like, he's the law. He's got it.
And like, this is a world where bouncers are so famous and so well known and have so much influence. That also then means that like going out to the bar is a really significant part of the culture in this world. He comes from a place that is far enough away to require a plane ticket to be close enough, I suppose, to drive, because he chooses to drive instead because this person who gets stabbed all the time says that flying's too dangerous.
A really hard time liking the character after he said that. But you know what? He won me over later. I think maybe with the love scene against a brick wall.
Which is one of the cleaner, less questionable love scenes of the movie.
She had to wear pads for that scene, Kelly Lynch, because she was going to get bruised from him slamming her against that brick so hard.
That checks out.
Yeah. Speaking of pads and going back to that fight scene by the river, in an interview, Patrick Swayze talked about how he had not really thought ahead and established himself as not wearing a shirt when the fight started. Mm-hmm. It took them 5 nights to shoot that fight. And they decided to go full contact with it.
He broke his ribs shooting that scene.
2 ribs.
Yeah.
They had to put makeup over his body because he was so black and blue from shooting it over and over and over again. And he's like, he couldn't wear pads because he decided to establish himself without a shirt on. Yeah. Whereas Jimmy could wear pads underneath, so he didn't get nearly as beat up. It's part of the
He
reason
did lose a throat, though.
He did lose a throat.
Not only does he rip the throats, but throat ripping seems to be some sort of like weird primal instinctual response that he has when guns are drawn.
But not when knives are pulled.
Right, knives are pulled.
Stabbed is not a concern because
which is more close combat. It's a kind of situation where the throat ripping seems to be more practical, if throat ripping is ever to be practical.
Yeah.
But no, he if a gun gets pulled, he's ripping your throat.
It seems like 100% of the time. It's hard not to get fixated on the throat ripping.
This is the movie that we are dealing with, Ian.
I know. I'm going to try to pull us away. Let's talk about Dalton's code.
Okay. Yes, let's talk about Dalton's code.
I like Dalton's code. So he has a really important code that he expects everyone to go by.
Yes.
People who really want to have a good time won't come to a slaughterhouse. And we've got entirely too many troublemakers here. Too many 40-year-old adolescents, felons, power drinkers, and trustees of modern chemistry. It's going to change.
And that sure sounds good. But a lot of the guys who come in here, we can't handle one-on-one. Even two-on-one.
Don't worry about it. All you have to do is follow 3 simple rules. 1, never underestimate your opponent. Expect the unexpected. 2, take it outside. Never start anything inside the bar unless it's absolutely necessary. And 3, be nice.
Come on.
If somebody gets in your face and calls you a cocksucker, I want you to be nice.
Okay.
It would be easy to go through and talk about all the times he breaks these 3 rules. So what I'd rather do is ask you, can you think of any times in which he actually follows any of these rules?
He does walk some people outdoors.
You're talking about in the very, very opening scene, right?
Yeah.
Before he even announces the 3 rules. We do see him execute them on him once. Okay, so that's one time he follows. And that guy knifes him, by the way.
He does get knifed.
Oh, God, that's his other great. This isn't his Save the Cat scene. This is his I'm a man scene. He gets knifed, doesn't flinch, and then stitches himself up. And then gets compliments on the stitches.
Yes, that was my and. It was not only does he stitch himself up, he stitches himself up well.
Yeah, he's good at it. I know. I love how much blood is running down his arm in that scene, an inordinate amount.
He gets knifed so often that it's easy to assume that he has a lot of practice stitching himself up.
No, I buy that he's good at stitching himself up. I was more just referring to the gallon of blood running down the side of his arm while he's stitching himself up. I just think it'd be hard, like the added challenge of the stitching. Okay, so that is one instance though, in which he does it.
That is the instance.
Can you think of another time where he takes it outside?
Sure can.
Where he's nice?
Nope.
Okay, how about a time where he doesn't underestimate his opponent?
This one's tougher because all things are relative. And he is so good at bouncing that he is world famous. And it is that we like this because it throws away logic for just really cool shit.
For a rowdy good time.
Yeah. And I'm not even mad at that one. I really love that the director's name is Rowdy.
How could you not? They underestimate his opponent. I can't think of an instance in which he actually doesn't do this also. I mean, we talked about him getting knifed all the time, which feels like you wouldn't get knifed all the time if you weren't constantly underestimating your opponents. Because
he just doesn't care because pain doesn't hurt, Ian.
Yeah, but all right, fine. But so let's go to the climax though, where he decides to raid Brad Wesley's compound with his Mercedes, which nobody knows he drives that, so it didn't really mean anything to have him drive up and destroy it. It doesn't identify him because the audience is we're the only people that know he has a Mercedes.
Very much know that not only does he have the Mercedes, he reveres the Mercedes to the point where he buys decoy cars so that the vandalism of his car is redirected to not his Mercedes.
Which I actually want to say that is probably the smartest and most sheriffy thing that he does as a character is the decoy cars. When you see him by the car, the setup for it is so good. You see him drive it, you see him give it away, which is another one of his save the cat moments. He throws his keys to that guy sitting out there, which, why is that guy sitting out there in the middle of the night on a chair on the street? I don't know. I have no idea what that guy's doing. He is literally put there so that Dalton can be set up as a cool guy that gives his car away. He sends his car there with a knife stuck through the pedal and gets it blown up, goes in there by himself against I don't know how many people. He is unarmed.
Yes.
This feels like a massive underestimation.
No, he is so good at bouncing that it's okay. There's no underestimating to be done because he is supreme.
I mean, he is supreme in that his bouncing skills, they're so good that they bleed out of the bar into the city. Yes. He becomes the de facto order of Jasper. Let's dive a little deeper, though, into Brad Wesley's character. So played by Ben Gazzara. Mm-hmm. He lives on this compound. Yes. He has a bunch of sort of minions, I guess, that all do his bidding. I couldn't quite piece together. He has a history with Dr. Clay. Yeah.
They were in a relationship.
Were they married? Because she says she was married.
Was she married? I thought it was that there was an ex in Memphis where the first throat ripping happened who was married.
No, I thought she was married also, but we need to come back to that too because the way they let him off the moral hook of that, Sam Elliott has that speech. And we haven't even talked about Wade Garrett yet.
Wade Garrett, his
retired, but
best friend / mentor /
father figure / mono figure. He just represents everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's the old sheriff that's done this a long time and knows when it's time to get out. But I want to stay on Brad Wesley for a minute because I really, really, really love Ben Gazzara's performance in this.
Yes.
And I cannot help but think that the Coen brothers saw this and were like, Jackie Treehorn, we found him. Did you notice any parallels between this and The Big Lebowski?
Yeah, they're there.
They are there.
And it's not just Ben Gazzara and Sam Elliott being in the movies.
No, it is more than that.
It's more than that. There's the Tai Chi. I mean, Dalton is the dude, kind of.
Dalton is like the dude, but with more discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so they're there. There's obvious inspiration. It's not one of those movies that you watch where you're like, oh, this is an unofficial remake. It's not that at all.
No.
But there is no way the Coen brothers are not fans of Roadhouse.
So he lives in that house and they're having that big topless party.
Yeah.
That
there's the orgy / whatever you want to call that.
Yeah. And they were just just come into this movie and we just want you, your name's Jackie Treehorn, but you're Brad Wesley. And we're going to have the dude and you have a conversation in your nice compound.
Yeah. And there is that cross romance thing where to raise the stakes of the rivalry. Right. You have Brad Wesley because the shitty farm that Dalton is staying at is right across from Wesley's apartment. He sees them having sex from across the water. It's more than a pond, less than a lake.
Yeah, it's just a very small body of water. They, by the way, built that barn for him to live in.
Cool.
I know. That was the barn, which man, we're all over the place, but we're talking
about Roadhouse. I mean, how I was thinking, this conversation
associate this one,
whatever, but there's no other way to talk about this movie because this movie is just a collection of crazy bullshit that I had an amazing time with.
Yeah. The barn, one of the reasons that people won't rent it is because of the smell, which apparently pain doesn't hurt and smell doesn't stink in Dalton's world. But that smell, I was aware of it. Once I tell you a place smells like a barn. If you've been in a barn?
I have been in a barn.
Okay. They smell
unappealing.
Musty.
Yeah.
At best. Let's get back to that love scene against the brick. She comes into the barn and this place smells like horse shit.
Yeah.
And then
very romantic.
So romantic. And then they have this love scene in there and they just sort of forget that this place smells like horse shit and hay.
But it's it is a more romantic venue than the Double Deuce's supply closet, where we also get
But he was on his break.
He was on his break. Therefore, he shouldn't get fired for
his time.
Banging randos in the supply closet.
Didn't they also establish that she was probably underage earlier in the scene?
Did they?
There's a moment, I don't know if it's that girl, but I think it is in that scene where she's coming in and he's checking ID, and
There are a lot of just anonymous 80s blondes with 80s implants in this movie. They sort of blur together.
There was so much, like,
And
everybody,
a plastic surgeon.
Yeah, everybody looks like they belong in a porn. Like a lot of these actors and these characters, it's so funny that like this dive bar in Jasper, Missouri is full of these people that look like they do not belong in a dive bar in Jasper, Missouri. But yes, they do blur together. God, I've lost my spot.
That's okay.
So many times on this. Let's do this. Let's cut to Dalton and Wesley having their little talk.
You're a smart boy, aren't you, Dalton? You're just not too realistic. Christ, I'm just like you. I came up the hard way on the streets of Chicago.
We're not so different, you and I.
You know, when I came to this town after Korea, there was nothing. I brought the mall here. I got the 7-Eleven. I got the phonomat here. Christ, J.C. Penney is coming here because of me. You ask anybody, they'll tell you.
You've gotten rich off of the people in this town.
You bet your ass I have. And I'm going to get richer. I believe we all have a purpose on this earth. A destiny. I have a faith in that destiny. It tells me to gather unto me what is mine.
Wesley gives his evil villain speech in this moment and reveals who he is. And this is why I got caught up on the economics of it, is he talks about bringing all these businesses to this town, but he runs this town like a bandito, letting all of his like thugs and minions rip it apart. Why would J.C. Penney want to open up in this town that's being overrun by criminals?
Yeah, it's like he built the town's economy so that there was an economy to raid.
Kind of, yeah. He put a lot of legwork into elevating all of these townsfolk so that they can have decent jobs and businesses, so that he can then tear down their jobs.
I mean, I'm listening to this and I'm thinking like, maybe he's right. Maybe he's not so bad.
He's created the self-sustaining economy, right?
He's just collecting the commission that he rightly deserves, because these people would have nothing to steal and ruin and firebomb if it weren't for him.
I also love that he does the "we're not so different, you and I" thing and says, I came up from the streets of Chicago. We don't know where Dalton came from. We actually know so little about Dalton's history. He went to NYU and studied philosophy, which I don't know what that's supposed to communicate to us about Dalton other than he's a deep thinker.
Well, that's why he's nice.
That's why he knows to be nice because of philosophy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He values humanity or something.
Hitler studied philosophy a little bit, I think.
He was a painter too.
I know.
One could argue that
I don't like where this argument's going.
that he sought to be the bouncer of Europe and ensure
Get rid
that
of some
it
of the
had
riffraff.
an ideal population. I know.
So anyway, he believes that it is his destiny, Brad Wesley's destiny, to gather unto him what is his. And he's chosen Jasper, Missouri as the place in which to do this. And the way in which to do it is to run a racketeering ring on the automotive parts store.
Yes. Yes, he has.
Okay, so he believes...
Question it all you want, Ian. He has a helicopter and a bitchin' monster truck.
No, totally. Okay, fine. He is making more money off of this than makes sense. Perfect. I love that. But if that's how he makes money, why does he crush all the cars with the monster truck? I guess if I'm in like the expansion and marketing department at JCPenney and I find out that somebody blew up the automotive parts store and drove a monster truck through the
JCPenney was coming to town prior to those events.
You think they're not now?
Yeah, they might be.
Oh, I mean, in the logic of this world, I think JCPenney is excited about all of the noise and hullabaloo happening in Jasper, Missouri.
I just hope that the buyer for JCPenney is very creative when it comes to deciding what pants to stock because Dalton's pants choices
are fantastic.
They're fun.
They're so good. Patrick Swayze asked if he could keep all of his clothes from the movie.
As would I.
And they said yes.
Good.
He asked the same when he did Ghost, and they said no.
Well, that's why Roadhouse is a better movie than Ghost.
I love when extraordinarily well-paid actors ask for free clothing. But it's when you start asking for free stuff that really doesn't belong to you. That's the stuff I really love. Like, why would the costume department give Patrick Swayze the clothing? There's no reason.
Again, the clothing, I don't remember the outfits in Ghost well enough to place a value here. But in Roadhouse, perhaps it is not a monetary thing, but it's just where the fuck did you find those pants? I don't want to go through the trouble of finding those pants. I just want the pants.
The explanation for why Dalton is the way he is, like they try to give us the explanation through his education and his Tai Chi. I don't 100% understand it, but there's sort of like, you don't imagine a bouncer being like him. Like he's such an atypical bouncer, even in this world of famous bouncers. So you assume maybe he got it from Wade Garrett. And then you meet Wade Garrett.
Not where he got it from.
And that fucker looks exactly the way you would expect a bouncer to look. Let's do a little bit on Wade Garrett, though, because Wade Garrett is another interesting character. So I have, let's join Wade and Dalton for their moment of homoeroticism.
Let's do it.
Yeah, amigo.
You start with the breathiness on purpose?
No, realize.
Let's crank that thing up and head down the road. We can be gone by dawn, never see this place again.
You can leave anytime you want to.
Oh, shit, kid. You don't need this.
Tell me what I need. If you want to go. Get the fuck out of here and leave me alone.
Yeah, you're right. I ought to stop telling you what to do. Maybe I ought to kick your ass. You taught me as much as I ever taught you.
When? I haven't seen either of them teach each other anything.
I love you, mijo.
He calls him mijo.
Yeah, you know what that means, right?
Yeah, it's like my love or something like
my son.
My son, yeah.
Yeah, it's actually what my father-in-law calls me.
That's cute.
It is cute. Yeah, I earned that. What I love about this scene is the hardcore bromance in it.
Yeah. I mean, the music, like all
it's the most romantic. We were talking about the most romantic scene in the movie. This is it.
Yeah. It
still smells like horse shit, by the way.
It's the same barn.
That's why. That's why I left it in there.
Perhaps.
Do you think horse shit's an aphrodisiac?
I was going to say, like, there's some pheromones or something happening with the horse shit.
So what I'm learning from this movie is if someone pulls a gun on you, rip out their throat.
Yes.
Horse shit is an aphrodisiac. Mm-hmm. And the benefits of being wealthy mean you get to have a helicopter, a monster truck, and a three-wheeler.
Yes. What's the problem?
No, nothing.
Oh, okay.
These are the lessons I've gained from this film.
Yeah. It's aspirational is what it is.
I want to be Dalton.
Yeah.
I don't want to be knifed that much, though. He gets knifed so much.
I know, but...
I was actually going to say, like, with him getting his costumes back, aren't they all full of holes?
Well, he's not wearing a shirt. So...
I mean, a couple of his shirts get cut. All right, what are we missing? Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think that, again, much like this episode has become, hopefully, this movie's just a beautiful mess. Like, it's a beautiful mess.
I loved every minute of it. I will say the only thing I found disappointing about the movie is when the opening credits rolled, I saw Keith David's name. And I spent the whole movie waiting to see Keith David because I fucking love Keith David. All of his lines got cut. He's not in the movie. He's like in a background scene.
Yeah, he wears, when Dalton like cleans up the Double Deuce, the employees...
They start wearing red polos.
They start wearing
like
polos.
They were at Target, yeah.
And Keith David, like, honestly, the only thing I remember about him is he's one of the dudes wearing the red polo.
I didn't even notice him. I had to look up and figure out where the hell he went because I was waiting the whole movie. I was like, when do I get my Keith David?
You don't.
I don't. But other than that, that is my only note, which brings us to a new segment that I want to try today.
Yes. I am excited for this segment because you mentioned this movie failed at the box office.
It did. It failed miserably at the box office. It only found a second life on VHS and cable much later, where people started watching it and they were like, holy shit, this movie's dope. They were correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But what I'd like to do for this segment is for some of our bigger failures that failed against our larger movies, we're going to focus group them. So the first question for today's focus group is, did you feel emotionally connected to any of the characters?
No. But no, I mean, I felt more emotionally connected to the really cool monster truck than I did any of the characters.
My answer to that is, and mine's a little colored by watching all the interviews. Mm-hmm. After watching the interviews, I felt connected to Dr. Clay because Kelly Lynch she's just a treat.
Yeah, she's great.
Oh, but I mean, like in her interviews, the way she talks about the movie and really like she's like so fond of her time doing it and how wacky it was. And she's talking about how they kept making her blonder and tanner and blonder and tanner. And at one point they asked her to put blue contact lenses in. And she was like, but my eyes are blue. After watching those interviews, again, maybe colored, but I felt connected to Dr. Clay, even though I think she gets, well, I mean, we didn't even get into this. She and literally every woman in this movie gets short shrifted. They're all props.
Yes.
Carrie Ann's the only one who's not a prop, and she literally vanishes. She actually felt like she came from our universe, not from whatever alternate universe Roadhouse takes place in. And so, yeah, Carrie Ann, I felt emotionally connected. I also love that she stalks Patrick Swayze, and the moment when she sees his butt, she makes a face that's not quite attracted, not quite disgusted. It's somewhere in the middle.
No, she's just like, this is a noteworthy butt.
She says so much for that. So yeah, Carrie Ann, from her haircut to her like great nerdy girl 80s clothes.
Dude, the haircuts in this movie are so good.
Every haircut is good. Like, obviously, Patrick Swayze gets the most for his. That was actually one of Patrick Swayze's biggest regrets, was that haircut. He said he became so known for it. He didn't want that haircut. Mm-hmm. It wasn't he was like, they did that to me. I did not want it. And then it became a thing. Let's go to question 2 of our focus group. Were there any parts of the movie that you found confusing or unclear?
Yeah, the whole fucking movie is confusing and unclear. That's the best thing about it. Like how the economy of Jasper, Missouri works. Why bouncers are so famous. What being nice does when trying to clean up the Double Deuce.
I mean, why bouncers are so famous. We didn't even ask this, but think about it. If you're good at being a bouncer, wouldn't you not be famous?
Right. It's the type of job where success is not drawing attention to the work that you've done.
Damn. Okay. So if you could ask a character a question, what would it be?
This is the hardest one to answer, I think.
I'll go first, and I've got mine.
Yeah.
I want to ask Dalton, why were you reading Legends of the Fall?
Right, because I'm glad you brought this up.
I don't understand.
In any other movie, when you have a character with like a mysterious background who's doing something that seems at odds with that background, and then they are seen multiple times reading a book, and that book is, I assume, deliberately shown on screen, like, right?
It feels pretty deliberate. It was a big bestseller right now.
Yeah, I mean, in any other movie that has some kind of symbolic meaning, no clue.
All right.
Yeah, I guess my question, if I could ask a character a question, and I'm stealing this from you a little bit, it would be a character that we do not meet. This character exists off screen. It is the person at JCPenney who is deciding that Jasper, Missouri is the ideal location for their next location.
I have questions too. I actually would ask even more. I would want to know, what did the conversation between you and Brad Wesley look like?
Well, that and like, what market research did they do?
Did he mention that fee you have to pay to him to make sure that his goons don't come in and start getting into big brawls?
Just imagine
monster trucks through the middle of JCPenney.
I worry about like the family portrait area. Chaos. Is the answer.
Chaos ensues in the JCPenney. Dude, that's the fucking sequel.
JCPenney moves in.
Dalton takes a job at JCPenney.
as their like LP. I'd watch it.
Oh, I say we make it. Well, that feels like a good place to stop. We're going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, we'll do our MVPs and we'll get ready for the headliner.
Yes.
We'll be back soon with more Sold Out.
Welcome back to Sold Out. A lot of fun talking about Roadhouse.
Didn't make it easy, but yes, it was fun.
Even if it was directionless and all over the place. Those are synonyms. It's just such a fun movie. And I know that we just spent however long just giggling like idiots about how much fun it was.
I promise I had a plan for this episode. I'll upload it in the show notes.
Yeah, but it was. Not to be too repetitive with you, but this is exactly what I wanted out of Rollerball. Like Rollerball as a concept seemed like it was just going to be a dumb, chaotic movie with crazy set pieces and silly characters. And instead it was just like Rollerball was just kind of boring.
Yeah.
And Roadhouse is many things, but boring is not one of them.
It knew what it was. It knew what it wanted to be. It didn't try to be something else. It knew it was a bouncer in a dive bar. And it's like, I'm going to be the best damn bouncer in a dive bar I can be. It was the Dalton of action movies.
Sure. Yeah. Let's do it. I am willing to accept that premise.
That is my Ouroboros of analogies.
Well, now is the time where we name the MVPs of the movie. Who is your MVP of Roadhouse?
I again really struggled. I'm going to show you my notes. See under MVP, there's just a blank bullet.
Oh yeah, I swear if you give me like 5 choices to vote for.
No. I'm gonna make a call right now. I'm going Ben Gazzara.
Yeah.
I really, yeah. I was actually talking to my wife about this recently, and I was like, the reason I struggle with superhero movies is I always enjoy the villain more than the hero.
Yeah.
And
I don't think you're alone in that.
Superhero movies have shitty villains almost always. In fact,
Black Panther is an example where the villain is the best part of the movie.
Where the villain's actually interesting. Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy, the villain's not interesting, but all the heroes are so villainous that I like it for that reason.
Yeah, because they're anti-heroes.
And I think Ben Gazzara as the villain, I mean, there's a reason that we believe that Joel and Ethan Coen saw him and were like, oh, you are Jackie Treehorn.
I didn't get enough Brad Wesley, let's give the world more of him.
Yeah, exactly. I think he did such a good job at being this sort of like slimy, charming guy. I mean, look at the lines he had to work with.
I strongly considered making the stuffed polar bear my MVP.
I forgot about the polar bear. That line, I should have had that in our clips. But yeah, I think so. I think Ben Gazzara, and I watched an interview with him as well, talking about the role, and he was so funny. They had asked him what training he had done, and he was like, "My life is my training." When you when you grow up the way I did, you just take all of that, and you don't even have to train.
Mean Streets of Chicago.
Yep. For him, he actually said the mean streets of New York, but he was just being Brad Wesley in the interview and was like, yep, that's what I brought to the screen. And because he exists within the world, but he's the only one that has a significant role to play that isn't a hyper physical role to play. And so he has to do so much with his dialogue, with his tone, to make you buy into who he is. And I bought it every time he was on screen.
Yeah, hook, line, and sinker.
Ben Gazzara, my MVP of the show. I had no questions I wanted to ask of him, and maybe I was more emotionally connected to him than even Carrie Ann. I don't know.
Perhaps.
I'm a villain. Who is your MVP,
All right.
Michael?
My MVP is Sam Elliott as Wade Garrett.
We both went Big Lebowski.
With a massive assist from whichever of the two screenwriters is responsible for his dialogue. And so I'm just going to share some of my favorite lines. We'll start mellow. We'll build up. We get I'll get all the sleep I need when I'm dead. That's a good one. Love it.
That's a solid old sheriff.
That's a solid old, yeah. But then we get when he's trying to give Dalton his like moral out, he says, and when a man sticks a gun in your face, you got 2 choices. You can die or you can kill the motherfucker. I like when he meets Doc and he says, that gal's got entirely too many brains to have an ass like that.
That might go down as most sexist line of all time.
When we get introduced to him, and there's the big brawl when the replacement liquor distributor is trying to make a delivery, and one of the goons calls him dickless, and his response is, "Well, I sure ain't gonna show you my dick."
I didn't really understand that line. Now that I'm realizing that's another question I want to ask a character.
Yeah. And my personal favorite, he refers to the bar as the Double Deuce. Sam Elliott and his delivery of the lines that were provided to us either by David Lee Henry or Hillary Henkin. I like to imagine that Hillary Henkin's the one who gave those to us.
I like that the Double Deuce is somehow more insulting than the Double Deuce. A douche is clean. A deuce is a piece of shit.
Well, but I mean, a Double Deuce is ostensibly like a poker hand, albeit not a very strong one.
There's no gambling in the Double Deuce.
That makes as much sense as anything else in this movie.
We've watched 2 movies. How are you feeling about 1989?
I am feeling really fucking good about 1989.
The good old days, huh?
I guess.
Well, I have absolutely loved chatting Roadhouse with you, despite all of your best efforts and successes at derailing the chat. We are going to see Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade next week.
Yeah, it's going to be our last crusade in 1989.
Yeah.
We'll be catching up with Indy.
It is.
I love anything with Harrison Ford, so I'm excited. Awesome. Well, thank you all again for joining us here on Sold Out. We just really appreciate you subscribing to the show, engaging with us online. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, which I hate, X. We are at soldout_pod in all of those places. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is you get your podcasts, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Ian puts lots of work into editing the video of this thing. Someone needs to watch it. Hopefully that is you. Ian, where can they find you?
They can find me at Ian_upleft at all of the places that you just mentioned. And then our newsletter, if you want to know what movies we're watching next, because each time we travel to a year, we don't know which 2 we'll be seeing before we see the big headliner. Well, you can find out a little bit early in the newsletter and then watch along with us.
Excellent. I can be found at Michael_upleft. Follow me for whatever it is I have to say on there. And make sure to catch us next time here on Sold Out.
See you next time at Sold Out.
Sold Out is an Upleft Media production. Hosted, written, and produced by Ian Tarter and Michael Smith. Edited and sound engineered by Ian Tarter. With special thanks to Rosie Page.